Welcome, fellow castigators. It's time to talk about Power of the Doctor, Jodie Whittaker's final episode on Doctor Who. I'm going to do a bit of a play-by-play, so this will be very spoilery, just to warn you. The episode kicks off with Cybermen invading a nondescript space vessel. They have spiky shoulder pads, and they mean business. The passengers fight back, but just when they think they're safe, the Cybermen start to glow yellow and regenerate. Gosh, the Cybermasters are so dumb. Can anyone say their name with a straight face? That's when the TARDIS shows up with such terrible CGI it was giving me flashbacks to time in the Ronnie. Instead of landing on the roof of the vessel, the TARDIS hovers over the spacecraft, and Dan, Yaz, and Jodie climb down to the roof of the ship by ladder, because it's more dangerous that way, I guess. Dan comes down the ladder really casually and complains about being on time for a date later. Then he says something completely indecipherable in a language that I'm told is called Liverpool. Jodie gives Dan her sonic and tells him not to lose it, and I was rooting so hard for him to lose it, and then the TARDIS team split up to look for clues. Dan goes to the back and uses the sonic to slow down the ship, and I'm not sure how that helped. But Dan seems happy to do it, and he does a captain-style update over the loudspeaker. On the other side of the ship, Yaz is doing nothing, and Jodie is giving a speech to the Cybermen about how they've lost. Turns out she's terribly wrong. The Cybermen find the little girl they're after and teleport away. That's going to happen a lot in this episode, by the way. After Jodie makes a surprised face, the theme goes, and even at high volume, I could barely tell it was music. And then we're treated to Ace McShane in an art gallery taking pictures of a blank wall. She interrogates a curator, who tells her the painting she's looking for is being cleaned. Ace then calls Tegan Jovanka, who for some reason doesn't know what time it is or what day it is, even though she clearly has a smartphone. The line is never explained, so I'm just going to assume that Tegan had a hell of a night doing a Romanian pub crawl. Ace tells her that 15 paintings in galleries across the world are missing. But I'm not sure what the concern is. I mean, only 15? How would she even notice something like that with so many paintings in so many galleries? And why is she insisting there's something fishy, even though the curator says it's being cleaned? I know she said it had already been cleaned a month before, but with the kinds of things activists do to paintings, I'd say that's perfectly reasonable. We cut back to the TARDIS team dropping Dan off for his date, and he tells them not to come back. Because his helmet broke during the last adventure, Dan is suddenly facing his own mortality and wants to leave. This feels kind of sudden, because Dan was acting pretty nonchalant the whole time, minus the one shot of him looking at the helmet. It also feels pretty weird that out of every danger he's faced, a broken helmet is what shakes him up. I feel like they could have come up with a better reason, like, I don't know, how he spent several years stuck in the 1900s with seemingly no chance of escape. I swear, Chibnall doesn't read his own scripts. As soon as Dan buggers off, a Dalek calls the TARDIS to say he's defecting, and wants to give Jodie information about a Dalek plot. I thought the TARDIS had better security than this, but I guess not. Jodie says, "A traitor Dalek? That's a new one," even though it really isn't. Remember Rusty, who appears more than once and is mentioned in several episodes? I guess not. Also, I don't know why it's just now hitting me during the scene, but Jodie is just not a good actress. Like, the material is not much to work with, for sure. But if you look at all her scenes from the beginning of the episode to here, you could see she's so inconsistent. She acts with no conviction. I'm just never convinced she's a real person. I'm not just saying she's bad as the Doctor, and I'm not saying I don't like her on a personal level. I'm saying that she's a damn boring performer. She constantly looks like she doesn't want to be there, and it honestly reminds me of watching CW shows back in the day. Moving on, we go back in time and the Master is masquerading as Rasputin and coercing the Romanovs into making bad decisions. He looks amazingly stupid as Rasputin. and although I like to see them utilizing the Master's hypnosis, I can't help but think it would have been more entertaining to see him as a charismatic Rasputin, as the Master is usually fun and likable when he's in disguise. He then tells us he's the Master because the audience is stupid, apparently. Also, I don't know why I find it so funny, but all the Russians have English accents. So next, Jodie is randomly on a planet made by the Cybermen, and she asks if they're even capable of doing that, as if the Cybermen have never done anything like this before. They find the Master's evil TARDIS, and they find the little girl from the ship, all chained up. Jodie says the girl is actually a sentient ball of energy, covered in a perception filter that shows you something that you want to protect. But if that's true, then why didn't it show someone the Doctor cares more about, like Rose or Clara? And why would it show someone you would want to extricate from the chains? Wouldn't it be smarter to show someone Jodie doesn't want to release? Like perhaps the Master or the Ronnie? Before you can make such contemplations, a Cyberman shows up and starts shooting at the expository pair. For some reason, he stops shooting when Jodie starts talking, and then keeps shooting when she's done. It's a good thing Cybermen are conveniently terrible shots, because Jodie and Yaz have quite a ways to run, all the way from the sentient energy, past the Master's TARDIS, and then into their own TARDIS. They make it in alive, just in time to get a call from UNIT. I'm not sure how that phone call would work space-time-wise. But damn, the TARDIS phone line is so busy. So Jodie and Yaz head to UNIT headquarters where Kate Lethbridge-Stewart, Ace, and Tegan are waiting for them. Ace somehow isn't fazed at all by the Doctor's change in appearance. I don't know about you, but if my best friend changed from a midgety Scottish man who plays with spoons while wearing a little hat into a gangly Karen with obviously dyed hair, I'd be pretty shook up. Kate shows the gang that the 15 paintings have been altered to look like the Master as Rasputin, and the results are so damn funny. The Photoshop is obvious and bad. The gang talks a bit, and Jodie accidentally shocking people with staticky hands gets a strange amount of screen time, but it doesn't end up having any purpose, so forget about it. The Master then uses the screens to send them a message telling them exactly where he is. I guess UNIT security is just about as good as TARDIS security. If the Master was just going to send UNIT a message through their system, why did he need to deface the paintings to get the Doctor's attention? Anyway, they go to the Master and he's giving a bunch of dolls a seminar on seismology. I'm not sure why the Master is giving away parts of his plan, but he also tells Jodie that this is the day she's going to be erased from existence, which shows just how hard the show is trying to become a parody of itself. Yaz points a gun at his face and boasts about her weapons training, but he's understandably unconcerned. I mean, have you seen the English police lately? In the TARDIS, the Master tells Yaz that he can see the future because he swallowed the Cybermen's hive mind thing. I'm not even sure what to say about that. Then we get a quick scene of, let me check my nose, a guy named Vinder, who I'll just call Mr. Pineapple, crash landing on the cyber planet. Seems rather convenient, but let's get back to the Master, who is hurling insults while being dragged away through UNIT headquarters. The Master implies that Ace had friction with the Doctor and was unceremoniously dumped somewhere. Why the Master would know this, or why Chibnall would write this, I don't know. And since the script is just jumping from scene to scene, we're already back in the TARDIS, where Jodie is so determined to help genocide the Daleks that she blindly trusts the Dalek traitor and flies the TARDIS to the coordinates of some underground location. As the Doctor sticks the sciencey object to the Dalek's noggin to get the information, Yaz looks over the rock face to see the Daleks drilling. This is followed by another reveal, where it turns out the Master sent Tegan and Ace tiny dolls so that they would get into unit headquarters, even though he had them in the university building, and he knew UNIT would confiscate the dolls and take them to headquarters. The master taunts the gang through the screens again, even though he's now locked in a cell. And the dolls expand and several Cybermen exit through the dolls because they're Russian dolls. How is this technology possible? Don't worry about it. How did this incredibly lame concept make it past the writer's room? Beats me. Why is the master insisting on the Russian theme? You'll find out later. Tegan and Ace run away from the Cybermen with terrible aim. Then they head upstairs and just stop running? For some reason, now that they've made it up the stairs, they're out of danger? The Cybermen break the master out of prison and hand him a thing so he can teleport. Back underground, the Daleks kill the traitor and make Jodie climb into the Dalek shell and teleport away. Damn, there's almost as much teleporting as there are phone calls. Yaz somehow runs into the TARDIS, no problem, because Daleks are always hesitating, I guess. Jodie teleports to a room with 2 glass boxes in it, surrounded by Daleks and Cybermen. The Master is dressed as Rasputin again and ordering around the Daleks and Cybermen, even though historically that would never happen. Why wouldn't the Daleks try to kill the Doctor right there when they had the chance? For some reason, they're going along with the Master's plan to force the Doctor into regenerating. Jodie spouts, "You don't have the tech," but the Master dances to the song Rasputin by Boney M, while a big wobbly techno thing descends from the ceiling between the 2 glass boxes. Yes, that's right. This whole damn Russian theme was entirely so Chibnall could get points for referencing an old TikTok trend. This is Doctor Who at its most pathetic. The TARDIS gets a call from both Mr. Pineapple and the Master, but it isn't important, so moving on. The Master puts Jodie in one of the boxes and proclaims, "I'm going to force you to regenerate. Into me!" Maniacal laugh. Ignoring that this is an all-new low, how would that even work, scientifically speaking? Well, shut up, because Chibbers isn't going to tell you. So, the procedure works because it does, and Yaz somehow manages to fly the TARDIS into the room, even though it's supposed to be mentally and physically impossible for a human to do. Hell, even the Doctor seems to have trouble controlling it properly, but Yaz does it perfectly because the scene needs to happen. She also stupidly exits the TARDIS even though it obviously isn't safe, and she has no means of defending herself against the Master or an army of Daleks and Cybermen. The Master says his plan is to make the Doctor feared throughout space and time, as if he isn't already, and drags Yaz back into the TARDIS, who basically allowed this to happen, instead of staying locked inside. At Unit HQ, Tegan and Ace plan to escape by parachuting off the building. Ace wields her baseball bat and says that Beyoncé stole all her moves. Is Beyoncé known for swinging a bat on stage? I personally don't get it. I also don't get why Chibbers continues to make dated references in a desperate attempt to get people to like him. But whatever. Tegan stays behind because she feels guilty or something, and then we're back to the Master and the TARDIS because giving your audience whiplash is a good idea. Along with Jodie's usual garb, the Master is wearing the long scarf, the question mark jumper, and the lapel celery because, hey, remember things that you recognize? Things you like? The TARDIS lands somewhere dingy, and Yaz simply pushes the Master to the ground and leaves. The Master still feels unthreatened by Yaz and sits down to play the striped recorder because, hey, you remember things. Next, we see Jodie poking around in the barren wasteland that is her mind. I can't make this stuff up. We meet a robed figure who is a representation of the Doctor's collective consciousness. As the figure speaks to Jodie, it morphs through David Bradley, Peter Davidson, Cullen Baker, Sylvester McCoy, and Paul McGann. Paul is the only one who gets to be in costume for whatever reason. The idea of seeing these great men again sounds good, but it turns out their only purpose is to tell Jodie how wonderful she is over and over again. Before anything meaningful can happen, we're back in the TARDIS with Yaz and Mr. Pineapple. An AI hologram of the Doctor appears and tells him exactly what to do. I feel this is way too convenient, and I can think of a number of episodes where that could have been very useful. Just so we don't think about that too long, we go back to Tegan and Kate at Unit HQ. Tegan makes a little speech that tells us Chibbers doesn't understand the character, and then she crawls through the vents because she knows them like the back of her chain. Kate deliberately lures out the Cybermen, and it works because I guess they're stupid and can't detect obvious traps. Ace is also apparently stupid because she parachutes off the building, and of course the Cybermen just shoot the chute. But the TARDIS catches Ace just in the nick of time because Yaz can fly it with superb precision. Or maybe the TARDIS is flying itself. Who knows? Who cares? Tegan is still clambering around in the comically sized vents of Unit HQ when the hologram Jodie appears. Apparently, all of the companions had a chip put in their brains so they could see the hologram. Not only does this paint the Doctor as a manipulative sociopath, but it seemingly breaks continuity considering we've never seen the hologram before. I'm sure a lot of people will excuse this, though, because the Jodie hologram morphs into Peter Davison in full costume. Now, I know he's been playing the character a long time, and has a lot of acting experience, but damn it if he isn't a million times better at acting than Jodie. He's a pretty old guy, but when he entered, it was like the energy finally hit the room. Peter doesn't really have anything good to say, but he makes it sound significant because he's just that good. Ace is up next. She's underground and is also greeted by the hologram, who turns into Sylvester McCoy. Just like before, they shouldn't have had Jodie speak first, because it makes her look so bad to be followed by someone as excellent as the real McCoy. So remember what the Master said to Ace earlier? Chibnall made that conflict up just to be resolved in this scene. Chibbers is so utterly detached from the history of the show that he had to make up something new in order to give the Doctor something meaningful to say, instead of hearkening back to an established aspect of the Doctor and Ace's relationship. So Ace and the Holodoc apologize to each other, and it's very touching, but also not, because the real Doctor will have no memory of this. Not to mention, this very conflict was already done in the Big Finish audio, The Rapture, where it was handled much better. Ace runs into none other than Graham, whose presence and purpose will never be explained. Ace and Graham won't be shown again for quite some time, so try not to forget that they're in this. At Unit HQ, Kate has successfully lured the Cybermen to her, and is keeping them back with a laser shield that she unstrategically admits will only kill some of them. Kate makes a deal with the Cybermen. She will tell them strategic Earth information if the Cybermen release her soldiers. It's obvious that Kate has lost brain cells since the last time we saw her, because this is a terrible deal. Not only is the future of the human race more important than unit soldiers, but Kate has no reason to believe that the Cybermen will be true to their word. The Cybermen agreed to her terms and dragged Kate away to be converted. Kate should have included Tegan in the deal because they shoot at her through the vents. Tegan falls a good way, but she doesn't die, and it isn't explained. Next scene, we're back to the Master/Doctor, who literally says, "Release the volcanoes." Not kidding. Why does he say that, you ask? Because his whole plan is to drill in the Earth's core, causing all the volcanoes on Earth to erupt. Yes, you heard me right. It's the same damn plot as Austin Powers. So after the Master gives the order to melt every city on the planet with hot magma, the TARDIS shows up and Yaz and Mr. Pineapple exit from a very obvious backdrop. Joe Martin also enters the room and pulls a Last Jedi, causing the Cybermen to shoot each other. But if Joe Martin was a hologram, how could they see her? While you're scratching your head, Mr. Pineapple shoots the Master and forces him into the box. Yaz and Mr. Pineapple successfully reverse the damage, even though there's no way that they would know how. But it doesn't matter, because we're back to Kate being electrocuted before her conversion. I have no idea why they're electrocuting her, but that doesn't last long because Hollow Jodie tells Tegan exactly what to do with some technobabble. Tegan pulls a random wire and it somehow electrocutes just the Cybermen. Who cares how it works? Next scene. Ace and Graham use some Nitro 9 to blow up the Dalek drill and get picked up by the TARDIS. But as you'll see later, it doesn't help because the volcanoes go off anyway. Tegan and Kate also get picked up by the TARDIS after they blow up Unit HQ somehow, which totally isn't going to kill people in the surrounding buildings or kill the soldiers that are trying to get out. Everyone is in the TARDIS now, one big happy family. Nope, never mind, this isn't Journey's End. Instead of a heartwarming moment, they yell at Jodie angrily all at once. Kate seems surprised by the console room, even though based on her extensive information on the Doctor, she would definitely know all this. The TARDIS lands on the cyber planet, and Mr. Pineapple says goodbye and leaves even though we saw his ship crash earlier. Jodie then decides to use both TARDISes to neutralize the volcanoes on Earth, and even though we can clearly see a whole cyber city in the distance, there doesn't seem to be any security and the volcanoes are neutralized easily. Somehow this episode feels like it has no stakes at all. Jodie looks up at the sentient energy and laments that we'll never know what it is or where it came from, which is a good example of every plot device Chibbers has written. The Master, who they apparently abandoned earlier, uses the creature to shoot a beam of energy at Jodie. Yaz carries her back to the TARDIS with the help of some wire work, and while Jodie is conked out, Universal taxi driver Yaz takes everyone home. I guess nobody was worried about the Doctor and gladly smegged off. Jodie wakes up and says, "You did it!" And then Yaz replies, "No, you did it." Even though the Doctor didn't really do anything the whole episode and totally failed to show any power despite what the title says. They eat ice cream and Yaz says she doesn't want it to end, even though she was bitching earlier about how she can't do it anymore. Then Jodie says that she needs to regenerate alone because that makes sense, and she lets off Yaz with just a nod. I could hardly believe that was the whole scene. Nothing of substance was said between either of them. It's a real testament to Chris Chibnall's incompetence that his severely underdeveloped characters left with a goodbye as bland as their personalities. Before the big moment, we're shown that the companions have started a support group, because Jodie was just that difficult to work with, I guess. We also get cameos from Ian, Joe, and everyone's favorite, Mel. At last, Jodie is stepping out onto a cliff top and saying something about the blossomisty blossom and how she can't wait to see what happens next. So, what are her last words? Maybe something poignant, like most doctors do. Maybe a message to comfort the audience. Perhaps something to make us feel sad. Nope, sorry, this is still Chibnall's world, and you don't get to feel things. She says, "Whoever is next, tag, you're it." I'll just let that sink in for a moment. Chris Chibnall is not a creative person. I'm convinced that his mind is as dull as a spoon, and he couldn't come up with anything meaningful. What a way to disrespect the actress who you dragged into your mess with "Tag, you're it." And what a perfect way to demean and trivialize the show you're supposed to have reverence for. Anyway, to no one's surprise, she regenerates into David Tennant. Clothes and all, because that makes sense. I mean, the Master got to wear Jodie's clothes. Tennant can't? Whatever, I don't care. Power of the Doctor is as dumb as its title in every way. The characters are dumb or misused. The scenes are dumb. All the fiction without the science is dumb, and the plot is even dumber and more useless than a coked-up OnlyFans model drooling while she gets beat by her boyfriend. I know that a lot of people will be creaming themselves over all the cameos and references, but I'm not going to clap my hands like a mindless performing seal just because I recognize things. And I'm certainly not going to get excited for my favorite actors if they're not being given a single important thing to do. In Day of the Doctor, everyone had a purpose, and all the dialogue had meaning. Tom Baker's cameo is beautifully written and spurs the Doctor on to a new mission. Old Chibbers, however, doesn't know the difference between character development and shamelessly queer-baiting audiences. His plot moves from one scene to the next at a nauseating pace, and nothing is allowed to breathe or mean anything. Not a single moment of drama has any build-up at all, and you're therefore constantly being held back from feeling a single damn thing. Power of the Doctor is an irritating, worthless, stupid, and boring exercise of some of the worst screenwriting I have ever had the misfortune to witness. I have little hope for the future of Doctor Who, as Russell T Davies has been insisting on continually stating in interviews that the show should reflect the world we live in today. To conclude, Power of the Doctor just annoyed me. It's simply another contributor to the slow death of my favorite television show of all time, Doctor Who. If you had told me 10 years ago that one day I would be praying for it to be put out of its misery, I'd say you were more insane than Chibbers himself.